Welcome to 8.3, Simple Interest. So we're going to talk about calculating simple interest. So at some point in our lives, we're all going to borrow money and hopefully invest money. So there's several words that we need to understand moving forward. We need to understand what the word principal means, okay? It's the amount of money we deposit or the amount of money that we borrow. Okay, we need to talk about the interest itself, and that is the amount of money that we get paid for lending or investing, or that we pay for borrowing. Okay, and then we also need to talk about the rate, which is the amount of interest given as a percent, and this amount varies. So interest rates depend on whether we are borrowing money or investing money. Typically, when we borrow, rates are higher than when we're investing, unfortunately. And it should make sense that a bank pays a smaller interest rate for money you invest than it charges for money that you borrow, because it's a business and it needs to make money. Okay, and then finally, we've got simple interest, and that's what we're going to focus on today. So simple interest is calculated only on the principal. So in the next section, we'll talk about compound interest and other aspects. But unfortunately, this also means when borrowing money, you have to pay interest not only on what you borrowed, but you will also pay interest on the interest that's accrued. But that's different than this simple interest. So calculating simple interest is our formula right here. Okay, so our interest is equal to, or simple interest is equal to the principal amount, P, times our rate, which is a decimal again, times our time. All right, so it's I equals P times R times T. Now, one thing to keep in mind that's very important, units of time need to be the same on the interest rate and on time, okay? And most rates given can be assumed to be annual unless otherwise stated. So it's an annual rate typically. So let's go through our first example here. So a student takes out a $5,000 simple interest student loan. So I see the word simple interest, and that's telling me I'm using I equals PRT. So since I'm taking that $5,000 out, that's my principal. The loan is at a rate of 7.8%, so we would write R as 0.078. And we want to know how much is the interest on the loan if he keeps it for 4 years. So that's our T. So moving forward, I equals P times R times T. P is 5,000, R is 0.078, T is 4. Throw it onto your calculator, and you should get $1,560 is what that person or that student is going to pay on interest for that loan amount. Okay? Looking at the next one, how much is the interest on the loan if he takes it for 100 days? Well, notice the rate is the annual rate in years, and the time is in days. So we need to calculate this days to years, okay? So 100 days, there's 365 days, but I'm gonna kind of show you the little fun fact below, and this is the banker's rule. So a rule that allowed banks to use 360 days instead of 365 days as a year. This was to make computation simpler when computing using paper and pencil. So this rule is not used much anymore since computations are done with computers and calculators. But for our purposes and what your book uses moving forward, we're going to use that banker's rule of 360 for the number of days in a year. So we need to calculate, all right, there's 100 days over 360 days in 1 year, and we simplify. So our T is going to be 5 over 18, and now we throw it into our simple interest formula, P times R times T. And notice here, the interest is 108.33333. Well, the bank wants to make sure that you pay everything back, so we are going to always round up to the nearest penny, okay? Round up to the penny, all right, to make sure that we cover the loan that we borrowed, okay? Or the interest that from the loan that we borrowed, all right? So even though if I were to round this, it would be 0.33 because 3 tells us to stay, we always round up for borrowing money. Next, we're going to talk about future value. So future value is simply the principal plus the interest, okay? So how much are you actually paying is what that's asking, all right? So when a loan is repaid or an investment is cashed out, the interest is added to the principal to get its future value. So calculating the future value is going to be this formula here. A equals P, the principal, plus the PRT. Well, that PRT, that is our interest, right? That's our simple interest. So we're taking the principal and we're adding the interest to it. Now, typically, we're probably going to use this formula here, which just means we are going to factor the P out, and that's what we're left with, P times 1 plus RT. So now, going to our first example with future value, a student takes out $5,000 simple interest student loan at a rate of 7.8%. So that same information from prior examples. What is the future value of the loan if he keeps it for 4 years? So another way is, how much does he have to pay back, right? So he's borrowing $5,000. What's the total amount he has to pay back? All right, so we know P is 5,000 times the quantity 1 plus R is 0.078, T is 4. So if we wanted to plug that into our calculator and multiply it by 5,000, we would get $6,560. So after I'm done borrowing this money, that's how much I have to pay back in total. The $5,000 that I borrowed plus the interest. Okay, part B then. What is the future value of a loan if he keeps it for 9 months? Well, again, 9 months has to match the rate. So we need to convert this 9 months to years. So 9 months times there's 1 year is 12 months. So these guys are going to, the months will cancel, and we're simply left with 0.75 years. So now we can go ahead and calculate P, 5,000 times the quantity 1 plus R, times our time. So after 9 months, this is how much we would owe in total, okay? So we would have to pay back $5,292.50. Let's shift now to figuring out how much we need to, or what rate we're going to pay. So if we borrow $3,000 from our parents for school and pay them back $3,200 in 4 years, what simple interest rate did we pay? So we need to find what R is, okay? So this was the future value, $3,200. This is how much we borrowed initially, and our time is 4 years. So $3,200 equals 3,000 times the quantity 1 plus 4R. So the easiest thing to do is let's first divide by this 3,000. So 3,200 divided by 3,000 equals 1 plus 4R. If we were to simplify, but don't round, just simplify, 3,200 over 3,000 is 16 over 15, and that equals 1 plus 4R. So subtracting 1, we get 1 over 15 equals 4R. Dividing by 4, we get R is equal to 1 over 60, which comes out to this decimal. Now, with that, we need to make sure that we would round up to make sure that we are actually paying our parents back what we intend. So we go back and we make sure we round, and then we write it as a percentage. So 0.0167 is going to be 1.67%. Finally, this last example, if parents want to invest money in an account that earns a simple interest rate of 4.25%, such that there is $2,000 in the account 18 years later. So they're investing money for 18 years, they're not touching it. How much should they invest today, the present value? Okay, so in the end, I want $2,000 in that account, okay? We want to figure out what we're investing, P, okay? What we need to initially invest, times our formula, 1 plus R times T. So to get P by itself, we're simply going to divide by this entire quantity. So we can throw that onto our calculator, and this comes out to be 1.765, and now we just take 2,000 divided by that, okay? Now, again, we are investing, so I want to make sure that I do end up with $2,000 in that account. So if I get P to be 1,133.144, I need to round this 4 cents up to 5 cents. That way I know I make sure I will get $2,000 in my account at the end of 18 years. So my final answer is I need to invest, or your parents need to invest, $1,133.15. Come to class with questions. See you later.